So we're going to get started with what happened too, but first, we have a special guest here, Battelle. So we have some people here from Ohio. They were just at the career fair the past few days, and they're going to talk about the company, their opportunities. Me and Pete are also going to talk about Battelle because we worked for them at some point. So yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
No.
No. All right. Did I hear you okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I do recognize a bunch of faces from other people we have introduced ourselves to today for sure. We've met a lot of people in SIGPwny, and obviously we're impressed. We're happy to hire and sponsor the club. So I can definitely talk a little bit about my experience as an intern as well, since I actually just started full time about 2 months ago, and I worked with Pete, and I got to see Minh last summer as well. So I can say that a lot of the stuff that you probably do in this club right now is definitely super similar to the sort of stuff I do on a day-to-day basis. The only difference is the stuff that I do now is classified, and it's a lot more fun than probably stuff that I'd be able to tell you about. Pete will be able to talk about some of the stuff that he did, and I can talk a little bit about some sort of the stuff that I did at SIGPwny, where I worked previously as an intern freshman year, and then also an intern last 2 years as well. But a lot of the stuff that you probably that you've learned about for like reverse engineering and web stuff, even if you're new, a lot of the skills that you're learning now are things that are definitely going to transfer. And for sure, one of the strongest signals that we see from new applicants, like the sort of stuff that we expect to see in terms of skills, are things that you're learning right now. So a lot of the people here, I don't know if you're already members or just signed up or this is your first meeting, but like I mean, like you're in the right place if you want to learn a lot of the stuff that you want that you need to know if you want to start working yourself. And if you've already participated in a CTF, then we actually have a couple challenges for like the hiring portal at Battelle. And I think a lot of other places similar to Battelle will have similar challenges. And if you feel like you're at the challenge, then definitely try a couple. If you can, I think I've probably said this like probably 100 times a day, but like if you can solve a couple, then we like to hire you. And if you actually like solving them, like if that sort of stuff is fun to you, then we actually love to hire you. Because that sort of stuff, being able to solve this sort of puzzles like on the day-to-day, especially if you don't even have all the pieces, and you're not sure the puzzle is going to be even like, even if you're not sure you're going to be able to solve it, those sort of skills are definitely what we value to solve. So for sure, I think we have some challenges. I think the URL is probably a challenge. It's a challenges.battelle.
Look up Battelle cyber challenge.
Yeah, Battelle cyber challenges on Google, and you'll find it. And obviously, we're accepting interns for the summer. But we're pretty flexible actually. So we have a couple people from the OSU Cyber Club who are becoming these interns now and are working like co-op full time. So we're pretty flexible as far as that. And then yeah, and then obviously my internship will turn into like a full-time job, and I enjoy it like, enough to come back. So take that as a whatever signal. It was a lot of fun. So.
Hello.
Do you mind to turn off yours?
Hello. Hey everybody. My name is Bryce. I work at Battelle as well. I am a talent acquisition specialist. So you maybe saw me today at the career fair. I hope a lot of you came out. I definitely recognize some of the faces like Omar said. So yeah, it's really good to be here today. We're just really happy to be able to see all of you. Obviously with Battelle sponsoring this club and everything, it's a really good opportunity to tell you about some of the opportunities that you have to not only get involved here, but to get involved with Battelle potentially down the line. So similar to Omar, I started off as an intern and flipped full time here at Battelle. So that's just kind of a testament to the pipeline that we have straight from intern to full time position. So that's definitely really valuable, and you won't get that a lot of places. So one thing that I'd like to tell you about is kind of the internship positions that we have. So those are actually posted for you to check out currently. So definitely go to our careers page so that you can visit that by going to battelle.org/careers. Battelle spelled. So yeah, 2 T's, 2 L's, don't forget. So if you check those out, you can maybe follow a similar path as Omar, starting off as an intern and working full time. So the skills like Omar touched on that you learn in this club, and if some of you this is your first time, welcome. But the skills that you're going to develop and continue to hone as you participate in this club are really going to help you in your professional career. So, working at Battelle as a full-time employee can definitely be challenging, but you can set yourself up to be successful if you put the work in here, and obviously maybe try out some of the challenges and whatnot that Griffin mentioned and Omar mentioned. Those are gonna ensure that you, have a good time as you transition into an internship or potentially a full-time job here at Battelle. So, again, we're just super happy to be here, and I'm really excited to just kind of sit in, see what everyone talks about and everything. So I'm a recruiter on the team. So if anybody has like any questions about opportunities, like such as internships or maybe like, what can set you aside as an applicant or anything like that, feel free to reach out and ask me. Obviously we are here because, we believe in you all and we think that you all obviously will do great things. So I'd be really happy to speak with you regarding opportunities we have, and ultimately I hope it leads to some of you joining Battelle and working as interns or maybe full-time beyond that. So again, thank you so much for having us today, and I appreciate it.
So I worked at Battelle literally just this past summer. I was in Columbus, Ohio on Battelle's Memorial Institute campus, so that's where most things happen. But like one thing I gotta say is like the work environment is very good. The culture is great. I had a lot of fun working on my project, and I got to like meet like Omar and like a lot of the other interns, and it's really a great experience, and like they're making an impact and doing really cool things behind the scenes. And yeah, you want to?
Yeah, so what Omar and Bryce were saying is definitely true. I got hired at Battelle because I was good at CTF. I participated in the challenges that Battelle put up, and I got hired as a result of it. So if you enjoy doing the sort of challenges we put up on FA2023 CTF, I would encourage you to try out the ones they have on their website. My work in particular was reverse engineering and binary exploitation. So we'll be running through that sort of content later in the year. But we already have the challenges up so you can give them a crack. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time at Battelle. There's like a really great intern culture there, and I got to work on some really cool projects that were like surprisingly similar to the CTF skills I practiced. So I really enjoyed it and had a good time. So I'd encourage everyone to apply. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And just to follow, just to follow up on that. Like, I know you probably heard this pitch like a couple different times, and that's why we're here today, is because we really want to like answer questions and just kind of like talk more about our experience at Battelle, because like obviously I really liked it and I've worked at a couple of other places, and obviously I chose Battelle, so there's a reason for that for sure. And then obviously like what Pete said as well, like the work that I did as an intern I thought was really meaningful. It's not like, it's not grunt work, it's not getting coffee, it's like stuff that you can imagine what the classified stuff looks like that you're helping them. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you want to move on? You can ask for questions.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to also come up to Omar and Bryce after the meeting as well. But if you have a question right now, just raise your hand.
Nobody. You, yeah. Yeah, so actually we have electrical and computer engineering positions up right now. So if you want to go check that out, you can apply. So I'm not the recruiter for those positions, but if you want to come up to me, like give me your name or something like that, I can forward it to the recruiters on the positions. That way you just get that like extra visibility, you have that first point of contact with me, which will, definitely set you up for success, because I'll be able to kind of talk to them that you expressed interest in.
Yeah, but for sure, just to follow up on that, I'm sure a couple of people have heard this for like the fourth or fifth time, but for cyber specifically, if you're a computer engineer or electrical engineer, we have a lot of openings, I think, for CTA, so cyber chain or cyber trust analysis or verification. So basically, we're trying to understand all parts of the supply chain and make sure that the chip that you design is actually the one that you're receiving. And so a lot of that stuff is like, like really cool stuff like signal, like delay propagation through a circuit to make sure that's the one that you actually purchase, stuff like that. So if that's something interesting to you, then you can definitely attack the EC side of it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I guess in that case, we'll go forward with web hacking 2. Okay, so if you guys have not been to a meeting before, go to ctf.sigpwny.com. The meeting flag is on the board, and this is the relevant XKCD, classic Bobby tables. Yeah, so the database was misconfigured, and if you sort of have a malicious input, you're able to like remove every row from the students table. So I'll give you guys a second to put that in. If you scroll down on the website, it should be under the Web 2 category. Yeah, and the flag will also be at the end of the meeting slides if you guys didn't catch it by now. Yeah, also we have like a bunch of helpers in the room. So if you are stuck, just raise your hand and we can have someone over to help you. I can't like see the slides.
Here.
No.
Even if you go closer to the center of the room. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, so the overview for today, we'll be covering SQL injection, and then we'll be covering cross-site scripting. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's been participating in 20 CTF. This is a scoreboard as of right now, so congratulations if you're in this top 10. Yeah, congrats to you guys and everyone else. Okay, SQL injection. What is SQL injection? So this is sort of a malicious user input that changes an SQL statement. SQL is a language for sort of querying databases. So it stands for structured query language. SQL queries are run on an SQL database. And the idea is that they sort of allow you to communicate with like a relational database in a sense where you can select information, like retrieve information, and you can also insert information into the database. So the syntax sort of looks like that first line. So it's like select, and then from, and then whatever conditions you want to do. So this query will give us the 2 columns we want from the customers that are from the USA. Yeah. Insert, very similar as well. So you can just insert data into a table. Unless you specify the columns are left to right. So the dev would be the value for the username column, and the password would be the packet column. Okay, so how this might work in a real world scenario is you, the user, are sort of sending your username and password over to the server. The server is then going to take your username and password and construct or build its own SQL query. And it's going to query the database that only the server can access. The database is going to return the matching users. And if there was a matching user, that sort of indicates there was a successful login, and it will return that information back to you, the user. So I also want to break down what an SQL query looks like. So from the start here, I have the select star. So this means I want every single column in the result. And then I want to select it from the table called users. And then I want to make sure that the following conditions are true. So I need the username to be Bobby and the password to be tables. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, now I also have a big block of Python code that I'll be using for my example. So this code, I'll give you guys a second to read through it, but it takes the username and password that is sent to the server from the client, and it makes an SQL expression. And then it runs that query and gets sort of a list of all the matching rows. If there's a matching row, it'll get the first match and sort of display this welcome message. If there's no matches, that means it was an unsuccessful login, and it's going to display that. My question to you guys is, I know a couple of you have already started solving SQL challenges. Can you spot an issue in how I'm doing this? Yes, right there.
Like that F string, the formatted string just puts the username and password directly into the query. You can put whatever you want into that string, and it will just, you can run and put your own code in.
Yeah, exactly. So just to repeat what he said, you can put whatever you want into this username and password, and you can actually mess with the query itself, what the SQL statement is going to do. So I'll go into this in the next slide. So we can actually change what the username or what the password is, and it's gonna execute a different query, maybe something that the original programmer wasn't intending to do. So this is our original query. Let's say we have admin, and then we have a single quote, and then we have these two dashes. These two dashes are like a comment in C++. So if SQL sees these two dashes, it's going to comment out the rest of the line. So that gets substituted in, and then look what happens. So the rest of the query just got commented out because of those two dashes. And the first quotation mark is actually ending the string. So now the query is started to select all the users where the username is admin, and we don't need to know what the password is. So this query will let us always log in as the user we specify without needing to know what the password is, which is pretty cool. Do I have any questions on that? I sort of like to imagine it like you're typing in your code editor and you can type whatever you want starting at that substitution, right? So my quotation mark before the comment sort of messed up the query. Questions? Okay. Yeah, so there's three main kinds. We have challenges up for every kind. Sort of the basic kind is the one I just covered, where you're modifying the query in some way. So you're commenting out the query, or you're adding some additional condition to make it pass. The next kind is called a union attack. So you can look this up when you're doing the SQL2 challenges. But essentially, this allows us to return data from tables that we didn't originally specify. So I am originally querying the data table, but I also want information about, let's say, like the courses table. I can query that information as well by using this special union keyword in SQL. And the last kind, we don't have any challenges up, but it's called blind SQL. This is where you don't know the results of the query. You only know if it succeeded or failed. So it's sort of like a binary search for if whatever you're looking for, right? So you could test character by character if your input is correct. So you could say, maybe if input is correct, I want to sleep 10 seconds. So then the server will take 10 seconds to send you the reply. But if the username doesn't match that first character, maybe it returns immediately. And you could sort of use this sort of side channel to get information. So I also have a question: how do websites protect themselves? This is like a pretty bad attack. So you should never be doing the string interpolation yourself. This is a really bad idea, and you should always let whatever library you have to do the string interpolation for you. So in this example, this library, you put the %s with the value you want to escape. And then the library itself will automatically escape these bad characters like semicolon, single quote, and double dash. Yeah. Here are some resources. So ForgeWigger is the one I want to highlight because this is the most helpful one for solving the challenges. They have like, I don't know, hundreds of like practice SQL problems you can put up. And they also have tutorials on every single kind of SQL injection attack. So when you're going through the challenges, I would highly recommend you follow the steps in their tutorials and go from there. SQLmap is a tool to sort of automate this process. So you can just run the command with the correct arguments and it will find the whole database for you. We have like capture up on most of our challenges, so you can't use that. So yeah, do it by hand, please. And then here is two more, sort of just a cheat sheet of common SQL queries and another cheat sheet you can use. Yeah, do you have any questions before we move on to cross-site scripting? Okay, thank you guys. I'll give it over to them.
All right, so cross-site scripting. So what this is you're essentially putting malicious JavaScript for other users to execute in your browser. So just a quick recap of JavaScript. So JavaScript allows you to add functionality to a website. So in this example here, we have this cat, which when you click on it, it will show an alert saying meow. But you can do a lot of other things like store cookies or state that allow you to like sign back into a website. without needing to enter in your password again. Now there's a very important thing about cookies and JavaScript in general is that there is a scope to what the JavaScript can do. So we call this same origin policy, and what this means is that only websites that create content on your browser can access that content. No other website would be able to access like your cookies for a different site. So as an example, imagine if visitingattacker.com would allow them to access the cookies for google.com or for illinois.edu. That would be a pretty big privacy violation. So for that reason, we have same origin policy to prevent attackers from like stealing all your cookies. So what's the solution for an attacker is to get arbitrary JavaScript on the website, and then when the user visits the page, they will execute your JavaScript, and then they can steal your cookies. So you might be asking, well, how do we get arbitrary JavaScript on a website? And that's where XSS vulnerabilities come in. So I'll present this example. It's a simple view message app. So we have this route called /view, and it also has a query parameter that lets you set some sort of message. So as an example, we have example.com/view, and we specify a message. And on the server side, we have this template which will render what the contents of this message parameter was. So if we specify as hello, it's going to replace this template here and put hello directly. So this is like this will be the HTML that gets returned to the user when they visit this URL. But with the templating method that we have here, the vulnerability is that you can specify like kind of whatever strings you want in here. So it's kind of similar to SQL injection, where like you were inserting directly into the statement, but now we can insert arbitrary HTML. So the B tag in HTML is bold. So when we visit this URL, we're going to see on the website that this text bold is actually bold because it's rendering this HTML. Now, what happens if we put a script tag? So a script tag allows you to insert JavaScript in HTML. So if we put script and then we put JavaScript, like alert hello, and end the script tag, then what ends up happening is we get JavaScript on the website. And when the user visits the website, you're going to see this wonderful hello message. Now, that's not really useful because we don't want to greet our like victims. We want to steal their cookies. So, but real quickly, I'll also talk about different other techniques. So whenever you like see user input on a website, like for example, let's say it's a blog post page, and you can like write some text, and then you post it, and it will show on like your profile or something like that. If you like put just random JavaScript or try to like run XSS payloads, and you put them into the text field, and then you post it, and then you can test if you can see like the JavaScript being executed. So there's a few ways you can do this. You can use a direct script tag. You can also use there's some more fancier tricks, like if because you'll encounter scenarios where there's an XSS filter and you try to prevent like XSS in general. So, but there's a trick you can do where you can like specify, for example, an image, and an image also has this onload attribute, which will execute JavaScript when that image gets loaded. And there's also an onError attribute, which allows you to execute JavaScript if the image fails to load. And there's also like random things like SVG. There's a lot of different vectors for cross-site scripting. So Hacktricks also has an extremely detailed list of these kind of vectors that you can put JavaScript in to potentially get JavaScript execution. It's the same resource that we mentioned earlier for SQL injection. It's very, very nice. So once you get cross-site scripting, you can basically execute any JavaScript that you want on a user's page. So anything that JavaScript can do, you can do. So you can steal cookies, you can monitor keystrokes, you can read page contents, you can make actions on behalf of the user because you are essentially running the JavaScript within the context of that user. And an attacker can exfiltrate information such as cookies to their own server through JavaScript. So as an example here, imagine if Google Docs had an XSS vulnerability and you could create some sort of JavaScript execution if a user visits Google Docs. As an example, here's kind of like some JavaScript. So it will fetch attacker.com and it will append the document.cookies JavaScript for getting all the cookies on the current web page. So it will append all these cookies to the URL, and then an attacker can view the server logs to see if a user visited the page, and then all the cookies will be in that URL, and then the attacker will have your cookies. So the idea is that you could try to trick a user to click on a link, so kind of like a phishing attack. And then when they click on the link, it will execute the XSS vulnerability, the JavaScript, and then they'll essentially steal your information. So XSS is pretty crucial, and that's why websites have to try to protect themselves from that. So go try for yourself, ctf.sigpwny.com. We have challenges for both SQL injection and XSS. If you need any help, there are helpers around. We'll also probably do a walkthrough of a few of them later on. But yeah, quickly, next meetings. This Sunday is inaccurate. That is, it's not reverse engineering 1. It will be kind of like reverse engineering 0. It's just setup of tools. So you might have gone to the setup meeting from the last week or two ago. Now this is kind of like a setup for more advanced reverse engineering. So we'll be going over how to install Ghidra, Pwn tools, and if you're on Mac M1 or M2, we'll also have you install UTM. Next Thursday, we have open source intelligence. So this is kind of like finding information online. It's pretty much just Googling things. But there's also a lot of different tools that help you find information online, because you shouldn't discount any valuable information that you could find online just because it's public. And then next Saturday is Fall CTF. So definitely come. The first 350 registered people that show up will get an electronic badge. We'll share more details about what it looks like. Also free shirt and pizza. Yeah. So make sure to register, sigpwny.com/register23. If you've already registered, awesome. And we'll see you at the SIF on the 3rd floor in room 3090. So yeah, there's the meet flag again. You can also check out the slides, they should be up. Yeah, go get solving unknowns.
Yeah, sorry, small clarification. We had rearranged our meeting calendar earlier today. We didn't have time to update the slides. So reverse engineering 1 will be happening next Thursday, and this Sunday will be the setup for that meeting. So no OSINT until after Fall CTF. Yeah, so check our website or Discord for the most updated. We'll update these slides and post the updated slides, so there's no miscommunication about this. Sorry about that. As always, as you're solving challenges, raise your hand. We'll have helpers walking around and helping you guys with the challenges. And good luck. Oh yeah, talk to Battelle. Get a job.